So as I had mentioned, really kind of before we dive in, just a few quick housekeeping items. This session is being recorded and we'll be sending out a copy of that recording after this webinar. With that, we really encourage you to share this recording with any team members or colleagues that you feel may benefit from what we'll be discussing today. Also, there is a Q&A panel on the right side of the GoToWebinar that should be showing on your screen. So as we go along, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in and pose those to us by using the question functionality in your panel. And we'll try to get to as many of those questions as we can. Again, I'd love to just take this time and introduce the team we have with us today. My name is Corey, and I help to manage our partner relationships here at Verified First. With me, I have Evan. Evan, good afternoon. How are you?
I am doing well, Corey, and yes, I'm on the business development team here at Dominion Systems. Spend the majority of my time speaking with prospects as well as clients, going through their HR systems and their payroll systems, see how we can help add some value, streamline some processes, and reduce some headaches.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And Evan, how are things over in Michigan? Have they warmed up for you over there?
They have. It is gorgeous here in Michigan, over in the 70s, and we cannot be happier.
Wonderful. Well, I'm out here in Boise, Idaho, and I can say the same. We're getting up into the 70s today, and it's just a nice change of pace after winter, having that sunshine. So wonderful to hear. So I wanted to take a little bit of time, as we get started to talk about Dominion and Verified First and really why we came together. Now for those on the line that might not be as familiar with Dominion systems, Evan, would you mind telling us a little bit more about how Dominion helps organizations?
Of course, Corey. So here at Dominion Systems, we provide an entire proprietary HR and payroll system, allowing companies to go through that entire life cycle of an employee, from hiring them, onboarding them to their system, getting them into that payroll, managing any time and attendance, leave management, HR resources, as well as performance reviews and benefits. So we really all encompass almost anything that you'll be dealing on a day-to-day in that HR or payroll world. It really works well with that Verified First because we work with employees being hired on, making sure to get those background checks without having to leave the system is a huge perk.
Excellent. Very good. Yeah, that sounds like really a kind of one-stop shop for everything. And so, as you mentioned, Evan, we've really come together with Dominion to provide the easiest, most efficient way to be able to effectively screen employees all within Dominion's robust platform. And that's what we're really excited to share with you today. Now, as we prepare to transition into our first poll question, I wanted to kind of frame this up for us. So according to a study done by Aptitude Research just this year, 39% of organizations are not screening every candidate for roles at their organization. And what we found is that bad things really happen to people who have good intentions all the time. When we think about why that is, it can sometimes come down to lack of knowledge or awareness. And I really truly believe that employers attempt to hire people with the best intentions, and we want to trust that candidates are being honest, but sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. And when we think about organizations' guidelines continuing to evolve, right, requirements are shifting. This really creates the need to conduct a thorough background check on candidates. Not only do you want to keep a safe environment for your employees, but also avoid potential legal challenges. And let's face it, bringing on a new candidate can sometimes be time consuming, it can be expensive. So you definitely want to take that extra step to have confidence in your hiring decisions. And Evan, this really reminds me of something I read just a couple weeks ago in I think it was the 2021, the Talent Acquisition Tech Buyers Guide that's done also by Aptitude Research. And it said that in 2021, the average cost per hire is around $4,000. And when employees or companies make a wrong hiring decision, on average, it takes the cost of anywhere from 6 to 9 months of an employee's salary to find a replacement. So when you think about that, say you have an employee making around, 60,000 per year, that comes out to an added cost of about 30,000 to 45,000 in recruitment and training, and that was something that was shared by the Society for Human Resources Management, or SHRM. So isn't that crazy to think of?
That is crazy, Corey, and I can't agree with you more on the numbers even sound a little low to me. I see this all the time with organizations we work with and people just spending so much money on that hiring process when they can, if they did it smarter, save themselves a ton of money and time.
Yeah, really great points, Evan. So now as we head into our first poll question, we'd really love to hear what you think of this. So I'll start the poll here, and you can go ahead and select the answer that you feel fits best with this question. But first, I'll go ahead and read it. So, how many U.S. drivers are arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol or narcotics annually? And you should see that poll show up on your screen there for our attendees today. So go ahead and select one of the following and submit your answers. We'll give you a couple seconds to go ahead and do that. And Evan, while we're waiting, any guesses on what you think this might be?
Yeah, Corey, after looking at this, I'm thinking it's close to that 200,000. I was thinking more around 250, but 200 sounds closest to the number that I'm thinking of.
Okay, very good. Nice guess. So let's go ahead and close the poll for our audience and see what they thought.
I had a few
Okay.
people who agreed with me.
Yeah, you had a few people, the majority of the audience kind of there on that more than 700,000. So let's go ahead and see what the actual reality and the true answer to that question is. And are you able to see that screen now, Evan?
I still see the poll here, Corey.
Okay, let me go ahead and just forward that on real quickly here, and let me know when you see the next screen.
I see the next screen now.
Okay, perfect. So the reality is that 1 million US drivers are arrested annually for driving under the influence of alcohol or narcotics. So, more than half of our audience was right with that one. And when you think about it, that's just the amount that, have actually been caught. So, Evan, would love to get your thoughts on this.
Yes, that is crazy. I was very far off. I was not expecting it to be that high. And yeah, I'd even think about the individuals that don't get caught. That is a very staggering number.
Absolutely. I've seen this number quite a few times now, but honestly, when I first saw it, I was shocked. But, if we think about an offense like this, it can happen pre-hire, it could happen post-hire. This is one of the reasons why organizations like to protect themselves and implement an ongoing screening policy. So something I really like to encourage companies to talk about internally is putting together a process in place to capture things like this, because we can't always rely on employees to come forward when a new offense happens. When I think of this, two searches that really come to mind that can assist with catching something like this would either be a motor vehicle record search and the other option being drug testing. We really work with multiple vendors to ensure you have multiple panels so that you can run to keep your workplace safe. And just in addition to driver's record checks and background screening, there are so many other searches that you can perform to complement your current background screening process. Some others that come to mind include sex offender searches or credit checks to determine financial responsibility. Another very common search is county criminal, which reveals those criminal convictions as well as misdemeanor convictions. And with over 100 different searches that we offer, it would be a little long-winded to list all of them during our webinar today, but just want to provide some insight on the services we offer to really make sure you are confident in the hiring decisions you're making. Now, here's another poll question for the audience. We really see that over this last year, a lot of changes has been taking place, right? When we think of how organizations have had to transition to working from home, maybe changing their business model. So we're curious from those in the audience, what technology are you potentially considering replacing within the next 6 months? There's the applicant tracking system, there's your CRM, background screening as a solution, or maybe some of the assessment capabilities when you're looking to, hire those right candidates, or are no replacements. So I'll go ahead and launch that poll question and we will hear from the audience. Now, Evan, as we have our audience answering, can you share from your experience what you have seen, maybe any trending changes that you've seen with customers you've worked with?
Yeah, of course. I will say what I see very frequently these days is that applicant tracking system and that background screening. Not only because they're a little bit more of a quicker switch, doesn't take as much resources to get into that, but also a lot of companies are doing it the way they've always been doing it, especially with all the changes with COVID, everything going on there. They're trying to find different ways to get those applicants, bring them in, and not to have that much face to face. So those two that are really being overhauled within the industry, and a lot of people are looking into changing a lot of those.
Absolutely. We've seen that as well. And, interesting enough, I'm sharing the results right now from our quick poll, and the majority of our audience is actually looking to make no replacements within the next 6 months to their, hiring platforms or HR technology. So this is really interesting. As you said, Evan, we've kind of seen numbers across the board depending on the audience, from looking for a new applicant tracking system that maybe has all those capabilities all in one. Obviously, background screening, always finding ways to really enhance and speed up the turnaround time when it comes to hiring a candidate, especially now as you see a lot of organizations getting back to business as usual and having a need to hire a lot of candidates quickly, and a lot at the same time. So really good to see what our audience is looking at replacing. And like I said, the majority of them actually not replacing many at this time. Okay, so let's go ahead and move forward in our presentation and really talk about, how screening impacts your organization. And according to a study performed by Aptitude Research, there's really 3 unique ways background screening impacts your organization. The first being, organizations using background screening are 2 times more likely to improve quality of hires. This really ties into the fact that you want to have the best of the best, right? And to do that, you really want to ensure that the candidate you select is not only the right one, but also honest when it comes to sharing specific details. And background checks are huge when it comes to providing that type of insight and also confirming the information that the applicant shares is actually accurate. In addition to that, organizations using background screening are also 3 times more likely to improve time to fill. So there's this misconception out there, right, that adding background screening into the process may slow down, with the hiring of new candidates. But in reality, it helps to eliminate the guesswork. So hiring managers leverage background checks to hire with confidence and in turn actually shorten the time to recruit. This can be especially helpful when it comes to competing for talent and preventing candidates from accepting an offer from another organization, which is something we see becoming more and more common. Lastly, background screening is also 2 times more likely to improve recruiter satisfaction. The more feedback we receive, the more we know that hiring managers and recruiters are having to do a lot more with a lot less resources, especially within this past year. So there's really a strong need to streamline this process so you can get more done throughout the day. And this is something that Dominion Verified First took into consideration when we chose to partner and allow background checks to be requested out of Dominion's platform. So moving forward, let's change gears a little bit. Let's actually see how this works within Dominion's platform. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share with you how you'll actually go about installing the integration and screening right within Dominion systems without ever having to leave.
I will add, as Corey is switching over to those screens, that the Verified First, you can actually have it install the pop-up within our system without ever having to pay for it. So if you just want to have it in there in case something came up, you can have it sit in there with no cost. It's only when you click in and actually activate one of those products when you'll be paying for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really great comment, Evan. In addition to that, and I was going through here and just bringing up my screen. It's completely free to utilize. It's really as simple as downloading an app from the browser store of your choice. So let me go ahead and pan over real quickly to that screen so you can see how it works within Dominion's platform. Okay. So as I mentioned, we integrate directly with Dominion. It's very simple to get started. We aren't leveraging any kind of API integrations, which makes it really easy for clients to implement our integration and start using it right away. So there's no technical resources needed. There's no 4 to 6 week project timeline. It's really as simple as downloading an app for your browser. So what I'll go ahead and do today is switch over to, I'm using Chrome, and we leverage a browser extension, and we're compatible with all of the browsers out there, such as Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, you name it. And you'll be able to find us in there and immediately download the extension. So what I'm going to do is enter in Verified First, and you'll notice our app appears here right at the top. Now, I already have it added to my extensions, but if this is your first time installing the extension, you'll simply click on the download button here. And once it's downloaded, you'll go ahead and hop back into Dominion Systems platform. And what I'll do is I'll navigate over to a candidate. So right here, you can see Hank Mess. I'm under the qualify applicants within Dominion's platform. So this should be familiar if you currently utilize the system. And what I'm going to do here is then show you the integration screen with Verified First button. And this is how you'll go ahead and get started. Now, I do want to mention before I click on this, you will be required to have credentials and an active account with Verified First in order to actually conduct a background check. The reason behind this is that we want to set you up for success and really help you to implement the packages you need, share best practices, and even do, a risk assessment compared to what you may be currently doing for screening, and provide recommendations on some additional searches that you may want to consider before you get up and running. So what I'm going to show today is how easy it is to place a new order for a background screen. I'll simply hover over the button and click on Place New Order. Now, a package will populate based off of the position you select here. So for demo purposes, I have an entry-level position that I can select. In addition to that, you also have the option to order individual screens. So as you can see here, just a short indication of some of the screens we provide. Like I said, over hundreds, but you can go ahead and select those as an a la carte service as well, which is really great. So for today's demo, I'm going to click the entry-level package, which, as you'll see here, has the Social Security address trace for me to run on an employee. Now, as I scroll down, you'll see that the information from whatever platform I'm in, so Dominion's platform, will be pulled automatically into our extension. So that being first name, last name, a middle name if you collected it, email, as well as phone number. And that really eliminates the need for any double entry of data, and potentially avoiding those errors when trying to enter in data for a lot of different candidates at one time. Now, if for some reason we didn't collect a middle name, I'm able to go ahead and check that box here and mention that I didn't collect one. And then lastly, if we did have the address in here for Hank Mess, that would automatically populate where the state of employment is located. For today's demo, I'll just go ahead and select Idaho. Now, we talk about turnaround time a lot in our industry. It's a pretty big deal. And if you're conducting background checks, you know that turnaround time can really be crucial. Knowing this, we implemented a way to not only email the applicant, but also text the applicant those consent forms that are needed for Verified First to conduct the background check. Really what that does is it shaves off an average of 8 hours from the turnaround time from when we start that report to when it's completed. So we leverage technology for that, and we found that this is a huge benefit for our clients. Hiring managers love it because everyone's on their mobile phone, right? But not everyone is always in front of a desktop or checking their email constantly. So it's a really cool feature that we're able to send that link via text to them that they can fill out, and we can go ahead and get that background screen started as soon as possible. Now from here, you're able to go ahead and move forward with conducting a background check on your candidate. You really have two options. The first being a send invite, which allows you to send out those consent forms and necessary disclosures. We do the heavy lifting with this part, and we identify where the applicant is located, where they live, and where they're looking to work at. So a lot of states have different documents that are required for the applicant to fill out. And our system's smart enough and dynamic enough that based on where they're located and where the employment is located, we'll populate the right right documents to them that are always up to date and compliant with the newest information that we receive. Now, the other option down here is to click Next to go to the following page where you actually entered in the required data yourself. This is great for instances where you may have the applicant sitting in front of you and you're actually collecting physical forms from them. Now for today's demo, I'm going to go ahead and hit Send Invite. Also, before I hit send here to go ahead and start the background screen, I want to bring your attention to the SMS phone number. So you'll see here that it's actually highlighted in yellow or orange with a message saying this number does not appear to be able to receive text messages. Our technology is smart enough to know that this isn't a true cell phone. For instance, maybe a landline or a fake number. And it avoids you sending text messages and lets it's a number that can accept them. So what I'll do, since this isn't a textable number, I'll go ahead and unclick that, and I can just send the form straight to email. So I'll click submit, agreeing that I'm requesting a background screening for employment purposes, and click send. And from here, you'll see a couple things happen. So you saw that invitation was sent successfully. So that means as an applicant, they received the email as well as the text prompting them to complete the consent form along with the necessary disclosure forms in order to run the background check. Also, from a quick glance, you can see that the status updated. So right now we're waiting on the applicant to complete those forms. So depending on where you're at within the stage of the process, you're able to see where you're at with that particular candidate. Once the candidate completes those consent and disclosure forms, Verified First will then conduct the background screen. And once it's completed, the status will update to then indicate report complete. So this is a really neat feature, and it allows you to pull up the report right within the system as well. Now, I want to bring your attention to another feature, as you have also different ways to manage. So for instance, if you're screening at a high volume, there are different categories to provide you with a bird's eye view of where applicants are at in the process. So maybe you want to see what applicants you currently have on queue that you're waiting to hear from. You can click on that, and you can either choose to, maybe it went to their junk folder for some reason, and you can resend that. Or if you've actually found a candidate you want to move forward with, you can actually withdraw that invite as well. What's great about this, when you're looking at maybe approved applications or ones that are ready for review, is that you never have to leave Dominion's system, right? We're just an extension onto their screen. And what you can see when these applications do come back, you have the ability to view the details and see the full report right within the Verified First extension. So this will pull up anything that was found, whether it be for background screening. We also do drug screening, and all of that information will be clearly reported here for you to see within the system. So you can go ahead and download that as well for records to keep on file. You can print it if you have documents on hand that are physical documents if you store them somewhere. And it really gives you just the capability of seeing more than just a clear status come back on each of your candidates.
I'm going
So
to add one more thing to that too, Corey, if you don't mind.
yeah, absolutely.
I will say you can also house this right inside our system as well, attached to that applicant. So as you go back to review them, maybe before they were hired on or after they hired on, you'd be able to keep this and be able to re-look at that at any point, just to say you want to double check it or know that you'll have it somewhere where it won't be lost.
Perfect. Yeah, great insight there, Evan. So, really a multitude of ways where you can store this data and keep it, and again, without ever having to leave the Dominion platform. So as you can see, really simple, easy way and a streamlined process to be able to start screening your candidates within Dominion. Now, with that, I'll go ahead and pan back to our presentation, and we can go ahead and get to our Q&A session of today's webinar. So with that being said, let me just pan back here. And I also want to share that as we're heading to our Q&A session, for anyone interested in talking to Verified First around your current process, or if you have interest in the services we offer, we'd be happy to schedule a call with you. You know, there's an email on the screen, partner@Verified First, that you can always reach out to, and we'll have one of our reps follow up with you. You know, whether you have general questions, would like to review your current screening process, or are interested in learning best practices for background screening, we're happy to help, and that's what we're really here for. And of course, if you have any questions or comments for Dominion as well, we have their contact information up on the screen, so feel free to reach out to them. And with that, we'll go ahead and transition to our Q&A session. It's always fun to see the engagement from our audience and any questions they may have. So as a reminder, on your panel, you can go ahead and in the chat function, you can ask questions. There's also a questions box that you can also pose your question in, and we'd be happy to answer those for you. Okay, perfect. It looks like we just had one question come in. What does pricing look like? Oh, this is always a great question, and we get this kind of every time we do a webinar like this. So pricing is really going to be customized per organization. And as I mentioned earlier, we have over hundreds of different background searches, so it's hard to throw really a price out there. I will say that we're extremely competitive, you know, with us being the fastest growing background screen company in the US right now. And our integration, as I mentioned, is 100% free. We also don't have you in long-term commitments that you have to, you know, sign into. It's kind of as you go. And also, you only pay for the screens that you utilize. So say next month you run 5 screens, and the month following that you run 10. There's no additional licensing fees. It's just really pay as you go. I would encourage you, though, to reach out and let us take a look at the certain services you're interested in, and better understand your current process. So once we have that initial conversation, we can provide you with a customized quote as well. Let's see, it looks like we had another question come in here. It looks like also, what is the turnaround time for completing the screening process? That's a really great question. You know, it really depends on the screens that you perform. So most of our screens come back same day, instantaneously. But for certain searches that we may need to take a deeper dive into the particular county, or say a reference check, you know, that's a service we also provide as well. And that's us actually calling and reaching out to the reference to verify the information. You know, that could take up to just a couple days, but again, with the majority of our screens coming back within same day. Okay, another one here, and Evan, I may let you answer this one a little bit. Can I conduct a background check before extending the job offer to the candidate?
Corey, that is a great question, and the answer is yes, and it is encouraged, especially when you are using Dominion systems. It comes up within our applicant tracking. We do encourage to get those background checks either during the candidate stage, or when you're thinking about hiring someone on, but you take that background check first. We discussed all those costs earlier that you can find yourself falling into if you don't find that right candidate and you do hire someone on, find out there's issues later on, and having to offboard them very quickly can just cause a lot of issues and really put a dent in the wallet of the company. So yes, you can do the background checks, and yes, I encourage that to be done.
Excellent. Thanks, Evan, for your input on that. And just to add, you know, with this integration that we do have with Dominion, we're actually integrated within, you know, a couple different modules. So as I showed you today, within the applicant tracking, where you can qualify candidates. We're also integrated within the employee side of things. So that comes into great use when you already have, an established employee and you're looking at keeping up that rescreening. So whether it be every year, every 2 years, checking in that instance to make sure everything still looks good, and with those rescreening processes that I mentioned earlier on. In addition, if you conduct your background screens maybe more in the onboarding process, we're also integrated in that module with Dominion as well. So really giving the flexibility, obviously, as Evan mentioned, we love to get those kind of screenings done up front so that you have a better sense of your candidate before actually offering the position to them. But just know that there is flexibility, and we work with wherever you are in your workflow process in wanting to answer that. So let's see, it says, can you summarize what an applicant will see? Specifically, who will the email come from? Will it show from our company or anything to help confirm who's requesting the information? Great question. So when the applicant receives those consent and disclosure forms, that's going to be branded with your company's branding. So it's going to look as if it comes from your company. It's going to have your branding on all those emails and even on the forms as you go throughout the process. So we're just behind the screens, obviously initiating it, but all the communication will come or look as if it's coming from you, so that there's no confusion on the candidate's end. Let's see, we've got a couple more questions coming in. This is great. Love the engagement, everyone. Let's see, I think this one we may have already answered, Lisa, but again, posing Evan to you, do you have to have applicant tracking in Dominion to get to verified first? So I think I might have answered this a little bit, that we are integrated in those various different modules. So depending on where you want to incorporate your background screening process, you don't have to utilize the applicant tracking. Of course, we encourage it very much so. So I think, Evan, unless you have anything else to add to that, I think that summarizes that question.
Nope, Corey, you answered that perfectly. But yes, Lisa, if you'd be interested in using that verified first, you'd be able to use that within the employee profiles page as well.
Great, wonderful. So let's see, it looks like we just have one more question that came in. This is a good one. And I will preface it by saying, this would be a good one to reach out to our compliance team on. But it says, what about EEOC compliance with background checks? So for those, maybe unfamiliar, that's Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And really ensuring that there's equal opportunity for all candidates and applicants. What I will say and make this comment here is that you want to be sure when you are background screening that you screen every employee that's being hired onto your organization, not just because you have a hunch, right? That's going to land you in hot water for hiring discrimination. So you want to make sure that your screening processes are consistent across the board, that you're screening every applicant or employee the same way as you would another to avoid that. In addition, what's good to know is that, we as the background screeners, we serve up this information to you. So we don't make the decision on whether or not to move forward with a particular hire. We serve up that information so that you have the knowledge and the confidence. And then according to your company's guidelines or policies, that's when you can make the decision whether or not you want to move forward with that candidate, or whether you decide to move forward with another candidate. So just a couple of comments there on those, but always, we encourage to reach out to your compliance teams. We have a compliance team at Verified First that is also willing to talk to our clients, because we know that's really a hot subject with them. Okay, well, it looks like those are all the questions we have for today. So just want to thank everyone for joining us. After the webinar, we will be sending out a survey. So we'd love to have your feedback on whether or not you found this session to be helpful, if you'd recommend it. And again, if you do have interested in either services from Dominion or Verified First, you see our contact information on the screen, and you can go ahead and reach out to us there. With that being said, we really thank everyone for joining us today. Evan, any last thoughts?
No, I am all set. Just want to say thank you, Corey, for having us here, and thank you, everyone, for joining us on this demo and seeing the value in this, and hopefully we'll be able to see you add some value with those background checks or with Dominion.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Evan, for joining me. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon and a great rest of your week.